Welcome to the Kai Greene Effect.
What's up, everyone? Hello. This is the Kai Greene Effect. This is your boy K with the AKA, otherwise known as Mr. Getting It Done. And I'm joined by Vlad Uden. We're going to get this thing off and popping starting right now. Vlad, how you feeling today?
Good, man. Good. Now that we're recording, man, I feel great.
I'm glad you were able to work it into your schedule, brother. I know you working so hard over there at Generation I and getting it done.
You're the busy one, man. You're the busy one. Always doing something, right?
You know, I just got back from the Legion Sports Festival.
How was it?
It was absolutely awesome. This guy Chris Means is what's up. We got a chance to. They have an expo. They had a show. They had a pro show. They had an amateur show. They had a bunch of divisions. NPC IFBB was represented large and in charge. I met a lot of really awesome people, and yo, man, it was just absolutely great. Wonderful energy all the way around.
That's what's up, man. So, Kai, we got some cool topics today, and we got of course, we got questions from the listeners. What do you want? You want to do the topics first, or you want to hear these questions? How you want to?
You know what? Let's go into the topics. We can go into topics.
All right. So the topics are interesting.
Okay.
So DJ Khaled, are you familiar? You follow his
DJ Khaled? What? We the best? What? Of course I know about DJ Khaled.
So he made a viral video with a trainer, Ashton Hall, who's also a viral sensation. And it was a video of them running. It's a quick video, but it's basically them running, I guess promoting his new album or something. I'm not sure what he's promoting exactly, but of course, and why viral? Because DJ Khaled took off his shirt. Mm-hmm. And that created a kind of a big debate in the fitness industry. Some were, admiring it, and some were really upset. Victor Martinez was one of the people that were actually very upset about it. Not upset about it, but, obviously saying that DJ Khaled should not be putting content like that out. He gave his explanation for that.
I'm just going to say, he's just a selfish guy, Yeah, he's there trying to get in shape. So what? You should have been out of shape to begin with. What the did you eat, man? Your neighbors? I know you still got your kids, so it wasn't your kids, but
jeez. But I want to know what you thought about that video. What is your take on it?
Well, what is my take on that? I think I got a chance to see a little bit of that video.
It's a quick video. It's only a few seconds.
Yeah, there's the running sensation man that's been blowing it up and stealing everybody's girlfriend. I mean, he's just, I would hate on him just because, but I can't do that. I think I've seen that young man do a lot of things on the way to come up. He took the pie in the face that came along with that. I don't see it as a negative at all. I see it as like an opportunity to celebrate what commitment looks like. He allowed himself to feel or deal with the negative stuff. And probably if he did, he wouldn't have done it. So I salute that. I really do. It's one thing to take off your shirt and to boast positively when you feel like you've already crossed all your T's and dotted all your I's. But when you're in the process of doing the work and you're still not afraid, to bare yourself, and as you are still committed to doing the work, I think that's a part of it. And I think I applaud him for being able to show us all an example of what that looks like.
I guess there's two sides to this situation, right? One is, people call him brave, and they also say he embraces, what's called the body positivity, right? So like you no matter what you look like, ultimately, you're brave and people should accept your body. Obviously, I don't know. I don't want to say words that are offensive to people, right? So he's obviously, he's on a larger side, right? So that's what we're talking about here. And the other side of the people are kind of saying, hey, like, what are you doing? You should be getting in shape. You should not be promoting this type of physique, so to speak. And that people that are promoting this are doing others disservice, right? That's the other side of the whole conversation. And it created a big debate, actually, on social media. Obviously, the guy people talking about him, so he succeeded in that regard,
Exactly.
regardless, right? So
Exactly.
he accomplished his
Exactly.
mission, right? But like, what do you think about, for example, have you ever seen a video? It's a bodybuilding show, right? There's multiple videos like this are circulating. Like if you search on YouTube or on social media, it's like a bodybuilding show, right? It's obviously everybody on stage is fit and ready. You know what I mean? Tanned up, ready to compete. And then you have a competitor. It's obviously an amateur division, right? And then you have a competitor who looks like, obviously completely out of shape, and just basically steps on stage, right? Like, I mean, just almost like a big joke, right? And gets a lot of reaction from the fans, mostly negative, of course. But someone's saying, hey, he was brave enough to get on the stage, right? Which is already an accomplishment. Have you seen those type of videos, and would you also then agree with those people that say, hey, at least he had courage to get on the stage?
Well, I think presented in the right context. You know what I mean? There's something to be said for like cueing the tape, or cueing the take that you're going to play. And a lot of times when you cue it or when you set it up, there is in the doing of that the opportunity to kind of bring everybody, online or in line with what the position or takeaway is that you may want. Like a director can give the audience cues.
Sure.
What's a good guy? Well, we'll have him help the little girl out of the tree. The cue to the audience is, hey, this is a good guy. What's the cue of a bad guy? Hey, we have the cat in the tree, and the gentleman pulls out a gun and shoots the cat just that falls to its death from the tree. We say that director is giving a cue to his audience and says, hey, you know what? That is a bad guy. Um, so I think the context is important. If you go to a bodybuilding show, that's, a situation or a platform that's designed to highlight and showcase people that have worked in an effort to produce their best effort, to recognize a physique that is perfect, or their pursuit of developing, you know, perfection, then maybe, the context is
I see
already
what you're saying.
set, for a person to come in there and say, hey, look, well, I'm just not that, and I'm just going to do this for attention. Um, and maybe the context is already set then, to view somebody and expose it for what it is, an attention ploy or something like that. But I think that it's also important to see when we have a platform that is designed to showcase people's effort, and if it's done in that way, and an athlete, hey, look, even though they're not perfect, yet their version of improvement is something worth celebrating, at least to them, a milestone, a moment of accomplishment. And with that, you know, I believe you can afford the opportunity to want to stand on a platform and showcase that. And if the platform is designed to showcase something like that, then I think it's applicable, and it should apply.
Would you be offended if you're competing in competition, let's say, as an amateur, right? And you go in, you're competing, obviously, right? And then another guy just comes in who didn't even look like he was getting ready for it. Would you be offended at that guy who or girl, whatever, who did it?
I would have no reason to be offended at all, because if I were there as a competitor, then I'd be focused on my desired end result. My desired end result would not in any way be shaken by someone that came there with a different expectation. They just wanted to get on stage and have a good time. Great, that's good for them. But if I was there as a competitor, they did the work for me. They're not a competitor to even consider. So it's not even an issue. When it comes down to being, it would be something else if they were awarded top honors because,
True. Yeah. Yeah.
like, hey, well, we just like his name better than you. Or we like the color of his eyes. I'm just kidding.
I have a hypothetical for you, right? Let's say you're competing, right, and you're doing a
Uh-huh.
show, and the day before the show, you look in the mirror and you feel like I'm really not gonna place well. I'm just
Mhm.
something is off with my prep, but it's a day before the show, and you're already committed to doing it.
Mhm.
But and I'm talking about not as an amateur, but as a top pro, right?
Mhm.
You look in the mirror and you're like, I know I'm not gonna be maybe even in top five tomorrow,
Mhm.
and it's a big
Mhm.
show. And last year I was in a top three, let's say, right? So people
Mhm.
expect greatness. Would
Mhm.
you not do the show if you feel like your body is not ready the day before, or would you continue even though you know you're gonna be off?
Nah, so a part of that greatness means that I've prepared, taken the time to prepare properly. Part of that process of preparation has built within that a mechanism that would protect me from getting there the day before the show and then suddenly realize,
Or
hey
maybe
man, we
maybe you
all
got sick or something, you know? Maybe you had a flu or something like that.
nope.
No, don't
I've
matter.
been there and I've seen what
Oh, really?
happens. Listen, I've been the dude getting ready for the show. I'm 2 weeks out from the show. I've been in a car accident, total
Oh my
wreck.
God.
Every
Really?
airbag, every piece of airbag in the car
Oh
deployed.
my God.
And it's like, hey, oh shit, we don't even know if you can walk. We just have to wait until they cut you out of the car and remove you, before we can start figuring out, hey, and all I thought about was man, I just need to make my show. Long as I can breathe and move, ambulate in some way to be able to still focus on doing the things that are important to me to get ready, then I'm all right. The car could be totaled. My insurance is gonna go up. Everything is about to change in my life, my home life behind the scenes. But with that said, my focus was to get ready for the day of competition. And with that, even 2 weeks out from the show, there's nothing that would, the only thing that could derail me would have been something that did derail me. You know what I mean? But if there was a question about it and we were able to still continue, I'm just saying that the process of preparation builds within it when you're doing it right. I just really do believe it just builds within that, just a lot of safeguards. You're not going to get there to just the one day before the show, a few hours before you go on stage and realize suddenly, Houston, we have a problem. If that's the case, then that means that I wasn't preparing as properly as I could. And that means that I had a hell of a lot more troubleshooting and things to figure out in my off season before I got there, you know. And I'm saying all of this to say that, yeah, if regardless to what comes up, you know, the night before the show, I can't afford to beat my wife if potentially
I
anything
hope
that I
not.
do, particularly that, is going to stop me from being able to get on stage tomorrow and represent all this work that I've just put in, all the money that I've put in, all the effort and the sacrifice. Nah, you just have to, I believe that your commitment to your goals, just it, if you're in the top and you're really focused on being at the top, then there's the there's the sacrifice that some people would say is unnatural that comes along with that. You just can't allow yourself when the stakes are that high to think that you can just coast into, well, just 24 hours before I got on stage, this one thing happened and it derailed my whole train. No, nah. And I've been the person that, hey, 2 weeks out from the show, car accident, or 2 weeks out from the show, you go to the hospital and they say, hey, look, dude, listen, you got to stop. This is done.
Damn.
Brother, you need to, I think even then I still had to think, and process and let's just face it, as a competitor, as a true competitor, I think that there are those times when your commitment is so intense that yeah, you'll probably chance it. Hey, the doctor says, hey, listen, dehydration is real and you might have some complications on the other side
Oh
of
my
that.
God,
Like,
yeah.
well, listen, long as I make it right here to do what I've been programming myself to do, to fare successfully as I've been willing myself to, going to bed at night, waking up in the morning with the purpose of doing that for months, for years at a time. You can't just get there a day before, 2 days before, and think that, yeah, it all just went to hell in 24. Now you get a coach, you get two coaches, you get three coaches, you get your coach. Your wife becomes a second, third, and fourth pair of eyes. There are things that you've already learned how to do on automatic pilot that even by default, you just the stakes are just too high. And to be the best of the best, it's not natural what you're trying to do. You know what I mean?
I'm
And the way you prepare yourself for that, natural people that believe in, I believe in balance and I believe in, just being able to go with the flow and relax. That person is probably not competing against you. Or if they are, they're not even in the right category, because the committed and focused athlete is he's working from a place of almost desperation that does not give up or give in very, very, very easily.
I remember
And I think,
I remember just talking about you're talking about laser being laser sharp, focused on what you were doing. I remember I always tell this story to people. It's funny. I remember one of your last Arnold Classics. It was 2016 or something like that. We were filming somewhere with you in New York, and you had your Tupperware with food, tilapia and rice, and you were focused on preparation, and you needed to eat right at a certain time. You had to eat, and you had your food, but you didn't have any forks or spoons, but you had to eat. Like we were in the middle of somewhere, and you took out a credit card from your wallet and you used that as a spoon because you couldn't miss a meal. I almost remember that story, man.
Yeah,
No matter
yeah.
what, you had to get it done.
That sounds extreme to someone else. Someone else that's probably not, that would sound extreme. However, part of the process of what it took for me to even get there to the place where we were meant that I had to learn how to specialize in overcoming objections. You know what I mean? What to be able to go to the extreme in your development and your extremes of your commitment, you have to be able to learn how to not hear no's. You did minor inconveniences that need to be stepped over, around, or maybe go underneath, but you certainly can't allow that to be the reason why, oh, I would have done this, but I just couldn't get this done. I didn't have a fork. It doesn't make any sense. That's like the fork is not my problem. you know
Right.
the
Yeah,
fork,
man.
not having a fork when it's time to eat, and it's time to stay focused on doing the work, that we believe that by doing the work, we're able to open up the door of opportunity,
Right.
to realize the goal that we say we're working to create for ourselves. And that means that not having a fork, that's nothing. There are people that eat with their hands, you
That's
know.
right.
Um,
Yeah, man.
yeah, so yeah, not having a
Yeah.
fork, that's not, if that's the
That's
biggest
not a
problem that
problem.
you have to
Yeah.
stop
Right.
you from your goal, then
So Kai, Lee Haney made some comments. I'm not gonna read the whole quote, but basically he said bodybuilding has lost its way and appeal to general population. And basically, he says the sport needs a reset before it comes crashing down. He didn't specify what he was talking about bodybuilding as a whole or as men's open division. He didn't specify what he meant, and he also didn't specify what kind of reset it needs really. So it's a very general kind of statement. Obviously, he's very respected, right? Everybody loves Lee Haney, so it's worth a reaction. What do you think about what he said? What do you think he means exactly by reset? But what do you think? What do you think he's talking about?
so Lee Haney is not just anybody,
Right.
saying what they've said. Lee Haney is one of the few human beings on the planet that has ever been able to accomplish what things he has been able to accomplish in the course of his career
Right.
that stand to his credit, long after retirement. Suffice it to say, when someone like Lee Haney, 8-time Mr. Olympia, says anything, you want to stop scrolling, you want to pay
Right.
attention, and at least, you know, um, listen and search for understanding. Yeah, I saw the quote, and I think what was said was that the idea of bodybuilding, being in a place that it sounded as if he was disappointed with with the lack of inspiration or the lack of ability that we seem to have as a sport nowadays to inspire and represent the idea that we once, as a sport, as a subculture, were able to represent. And I think what Lee Haney was saying was like, yo, if you're not able to inspire the people, if you're not able to represent the idea, that develops character positively, that develops, a mind that can lead a body into like extreme positive development. If you lose that, you become disconnected from that, then yeah, you can lose the right way to inspire the people. And when the people aren't inspired to do better, when the people aren't inspired to recognize that it's within their power to do better, to become better, then you know I think there's a quote in the Bible that says something like the people were dead for their lack of vision. Um, I know somebody's gonna write in now and say, "Wait a minute, that's not exactly what it said."
But what's the reason? Like what's there needs to be done? I guess what's the
So here's the
solution?
thing. Here's the thing, man. You got a lot of people that are talking, and there's so much to be said, and there's so many ways to look at this thing. And we live in a free country when everybody can say whatever is on their mind, you
Sure.
know. And a lot of times it's said without the responsibility, of what it is that you're saying and who you're actually talking to, and actually who actually is hearing and going to pick up your message. Sometimes you can say a message that's totally inappropriate for the vast audience that you're talking to, that's going to hear you. So anyway, I'm saying all this to say I think that I agree with Lee Haney with the idea that, hey, there may need to be a reset. And with that, a revisit to the idea of passion and commitment and what that looks like and how it can be identified in the picture of what our sport looks like and what the average athlete that's working to identify what great legacy they plan to demonstrate and leave behind looks like.
Well, I hope Lee Haney make another post with some actual ideas or how to do the reset. Right? I mean, let's see what happens. All right, Kai, we're running out of time. Are you ready for this lightning round from
Let's do it.
from the loyal listeners? All right, so the first question, it's actually three practical training questions in one question. So I'm going to read it one at a time, okay?
Gotcha.
All right, from Clint Osborne. Hey, Kai and Vlad, appreciate the content. Got a few
What's up,
questions.
Clint?
Question number one, have you ever considered incorporating vacuums into your ab training to enhance abdominal control and display ability?
Hell yeah, absolutely. Yes, Clint, absolutely, 100%. Transverse abdominis is what's up, and that's the way to cinch your midsection all the way around. Transverse abdominis today, transverse abdominant development tomorrow, transverse abdominis every day. Yes, yes, and yes.
All right. Next one, for Jefferson's. I'm assuming Jefferson squat, right? For Jefferson's, do you progressive overload beyond 95 pounds for Jefferson's?
For me, yeah, man, 90 pounds is about it, and I just focused on getting that form right and through connecting with those muscles. Gluteus medius, gluteus maximus is a bunch of like small obturator muscles that exist underneath your G-max that are all very, very important in facilitating the right positioning of your pelvis and your femur bone, just to be able to hold that right pose of the bones, at the bottom, top, and mid range of that exercise. So doing it masterfully correct, I think, is everything. And all you need was less than 90 pounds.
All right. And a third question from Clint Osborne. Notice in your recent uploads more machine work being done. Is there a particular reason or benefit to doing that versus
Yeah,
keeping it primary free?
naturally I have switched to a lot of machine exercises because with the use of the machine, there's a lot of guesswork that's removed from the equation,
Right.
and it allows you with mathematical certainty to be able to just kind of pinpoint and sniper, you know, shoot down each one of those very specific targeting movements to get those muscles right where you want them to be, feeling right what they need to feel in order to get it done as quickly as possible. So yeah, I lately I have incorporated a lot more of that at this stage in my life.
It's like you said, stimulate, don't annihilate, right? Like Lee
That's what
Haney
Lee
said.
Haney said. That's a Lee
Exactly.
Haney quote.
I don't know.
Stimulate, not annihilate. Shout out to the great Lee Haney, man. I mean, real talk. I had an opportunity, believe it or not, to meet with him just briefly. He was doing like some appearances in like Miami, Florida, maybe like 3 weeks ago. I was training at a friend of mine's gym, Alex Cabanero. He has a gym, a pro level gym in Miami. He and his wife, we were doing like our own little training session and stuff. We were filming, and out of the blue, guess who walked in? Lee Haney, man. It was like, oh, the kid in me was just so appreciative. It's just it's
Yeah.
like, the dude was like, he was like a modern day, civil rights rolled up into bodybuilding,
He's great.
mentorship, and business development. His dude was
Yeah,
like, it was just awesome, man. I was very, very, very surprised and impressed, and always thankful, to even cross paths with a giant like that.
I agree. All right, we have two more questions, Kai. Ready? So next one
Yes.
is from King Meech 45. Kai, what would you have done differently during your last Olympia? This was 2015, I think. Both on and off stage. So what would you do differently in your last Olympia competition, both on stage and off stage?
The truth is, I think never had I been more confident in my life and career with the development of my physique and the things that I believed were now truly new monuments to the successful accomplishment of some of the stuff that I really, really thought I needed to graduate to the next level, and in what it meant for me to be a pro at that level. And I think that with some of the exchange that happened between Phil Heath and I on stage, I think that some of the judges saw that in poor taste. And I think there was a negative reflection of that in the scoring, the points. Um, so I think I was penalized for that. And we both weren't penalized for it, but I was. And I think that was one, a big misunderstanding on the judgeship that saw things that way. But the truth is, what did happen created such a positive response from the fans, whether it was Phil Heath's fans or Kai Greene's fans, bodybuilding fans in general that came out to that sport. They watched, the press conference. They watched the
Oh yeah,
athletes, and
the biggest moment.
it was very big. And
Yeah.
I think technically what happened was, I think smart bodybuilding planning and judging and promotion would embrace that and try to seek out the ability to promote more of that. And I think just
Yeah.
just to be very honest, I know some people could say, well, I could have said a lot of other things. Well, I could have been better here, better there. I think one, my answer is complex because I lived that experience, and I worked really, really, really hard, and I spent a lot of time, a lot of money, and I left a lot of money on the table. But we also made a lot of money for a lot of people, and for the next 4 years behind that, there were promotion opportunities that were afforded any outfit that was willing to actually, seize the moment of capturing that and showing it. Even now,
Sure.
when I repost a lot of the exchange stuff, it seems to stimulate a response from people unlike anything else that we put up.
Right. Right.
And it does that for a reason. I think within that was the ability for the fan and the athlete that or enthusiast of our sport that wanted more, and
Oh
and
yeah.
and really looked for more and still are searching for more, could appreciate what happened. And I think that there was a benefit there for everyone that got a chance to see that. Anytime, even though I make fun of Phil Heath now, but you know, I have a huge amount of respect for him. A tremendous amount. Always have. You know, I think, and it's not just my own thought. I really do believe that the numbers will support it. The exchange and the opportunity for us both was huge. And tempers flying like that and barely controllable, made a good story, and it was a great
Oh yeah.
way to continue um, the narrative. And yeah, if I had it all to do over again, um, I would, one, wish that how it was interpreted by the powers that actually had a hand in the judging, um, would have been able to at least, be on board with the opportunities that were there with that, and not just closed off, and because it just becomes another reason to just say after the fact, oh yeah, well, you you were too short, or you needed taller, or I don't know. It could have been something else. Nah, man, you know what happened at that show. I mean, the truth is, we did a lot. We did a lot, you know. And I mean, after the fact, we can always say, well, you can get over it. But you know, people that
Yeah,
know,
I hear
you
you.
know.
I hear you.
If I had it to do all over again, just honestly, for everything that I suffered behind it, I might as well just I might as well be sitting here with no regrets. Now that could have been one of two things. One, you know, I could have just did what I did, suffered what I suffered, and then, you know, or I could have just got disqualified altogether. Um, you know.
Yeah, well, all right. Let's go to the last one, okay?
Yeah.
This one is from Liz on Eyes. How did you decide to wear a mask on stage? What inspired that? That's a good question.
So I wore masks at different times in my career. And I think each time, you know, if you were to go back and look at it, it might have been a symbolism for different things at different times. Um, I think that originally when I started wearing masks, I understood that, like with training, you know, in the beginning of my process of like my fitness journey, you know, I wasn't satisfied with where I was and what I was when I looked in the mirror. And I because I was unsatisfied with that, you know, I found myself very easily capable of committing to the transformation, the idea of changing, you know, in an effort to become something better, you know, um, submitting myself, you know, to a process that by going through it, you know, I could become more, I could change. Um, and I guess the mask in itself, in some way, you know, becomes an example of the process of transformation. You know, I think in doing that, we just represent an idea, and that idea can just, you know, for a lot of people, maybe it might, you know, represent a lot of different things. But I know for me, the idea of like being able to not be held hostage to the limitations that I understood of myself, you know, my own insecurities, you know, the mask was a way of just identifying what it looks like to now reach for more,
Like a
you
different
know.
personality almost.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? Here's something else too. Sometimes when people see you with the mask on, a lot of times it's less of a distraction of what you really are, you know, or what you may really look like. And now they can pay more attention to the idea that you represent a lot more than. So sometimes the mask can become the thing that takes away the limitation and the distractions that would otherwise misdirect the attention of your audience, you know. Yeah, so the mask, I think, is a lot of times a way to help, has been a way to help redirect my focus and sometimes even the audience.
All right, well, that's all the questions we have for today, and we're out of time, Kai, as always. All right,
Yes,
Kai. Well,
yes.
till next time. You know, hope you have a great day.
That's what's up. So, everybody, if you are listening at the sound of my voice, we want to thank you for tuning in, checking us out, and listening to us. As hopefully we were able to bring you something enlightening, something that, you know, bring some more pleasure to your day. On that note, we're going to sign off and get out of here. We want to always encourage you to keep it positive, and let's keep encouraging each other. And as for myself, and Vlad Uden, Generation Iron, the Kai Greene Effect, we're going to bring this one to a close. Until next time, peace.